Gabby. Welcome to my channel, Frog with a Blog. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I'm so happy that you're here. Today's video will go over what our first day looked like getting to Disney World. So first was the planning. We decided to take this trip in January and our actual travel dates were in May. So it wasn't the traditional, we know we're going to Disney World years in advance, 18 months before, or anything super crazy in advance. So when we decided that we were going to go to Disney World for her birthday, I first looked at tickets, I looked at hotel prices, I looked at flight prices just to see if there was anything that was reasonable for our budget. And luckily, I was able to get military tickets through my local military base, so that saved a lot of money. We were able to get the 4-day park hopper for about $365 per ticket, per adult ticket. And again, kids under the age of 3 are free, so that saved a lot of money. And the park hopper ticket just allows you to get access to multiple parks in a day, as opposed to a traditional one park ticket or one park per day ticket. You can just go into one park per day. If you're not aware, Disney World does have 4 parks. So they have Magic Kingdom, which is the iconic staple park with the Cinderella Castle. So they have Magic Kingdom, they have Epcot, which is the one with the Spaceship Earth, big, looks like a golf ball, but they call it Spaceship Earth. So Magic Kingdom, Epcot, there is Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios has the Toy Story Land, it has the Star Wars area, it has the Tower of Terror, so Hollywood Studios. And then there's also Animal Kingdom, which has the big Tree of Life, and it has a lot more animals. It has the Avatar Land. They have the Safari ride. So those are the 4 parks: Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. So the park hopper, again, just lets you hop around to the different parks instead of only being able to get access to one park a day, which is helpful for some people. They may want to start the day in Animal Kingdom when the animals are more lively, walk around, and then for lunch or the afternoon half, they may want to go to Magic Kingdom or to a different park. So we got, like I said, the 4-day park hopper ticket for about $365, which was a really good deal through military. Usually those tickets, or at least priced them at that time frame, is about $700 or $800 for the 4-day park hopper. So saved a good amount of money there, which is great. Definitely needed that. And then for the flights, I just priced it out through American Airlines, Southwest, just the typical airlines. And Southwest was the cheapest that we wanted to go on. So for us at the time, the plane tickets were about $193 one way. So just about $300, for round trip. But throughout our time from when I booked the tickets in January to our actual flights taking off in May, I kept checking the prices just about every day, if not every other day or every few days, just to see if the price was going to go down, and they did. I believe the first flight or the first price drop happened on our departure. So from DFW to Orlando, the one way, like I said, was about $193. So that price dropped all the way down to $115, which was great. I called, got my credits back. Which was funny because the customer service agent asked me like 3 times, "Are you sure you want your money back?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I do." But that was no problem. I ended up getting the credit just because at the time I purchased the cheapest flight. This was before Southwest changed their policies, so I was still able to get credit, not necessarily money back to my original payment method, which was fine. And that happened about February time frame. And then the returning flight, the price for that didn't drop until almost April time frame. And that one went down to $105, which was really good. So cheaper flights than expected, and we did get our flight credits, which is great. And then as far as hotels, in previous videos, you'll see that we did go to Disney World before, and we stayed at a Disney Springs hotel, Holiday Inn in Disney Springs. And that one was okay, but this time I wanted to stay, I guess, like in the Disney bubble. So we wanted to stay at a Disney World resort. So when I was looking at them, I learned there's 3 categories of resorts at Disney World. They have the value, the moderate, and the deluxe. So value or more value friendly resorts, or what Disney calls value friendly. So usually that will be the all-star resort, so all-star movies, all-star music, and all-star sports. Those are motel style, so the doors are on the outside, and they have different sections that you'll go to. Usually they'll range, depending on what deal you may get, but usually like $150 for a room is typical, I would say. Next would be the Pop Century and the Art of Animation. Both of those are on the Skyliner. So a Skyliner is the gondola system that travels to the Caribbean Beach Resort, to the Riviera Resort, and can take you to Epcot or to Hollywood Studios. So really travel friendly, especially if you have a stroller. If you have a stroller, you don't have to break it down when you get into the cart. You can just stroll your stroller right on it. So very friendly if you have a stroller. If you have a double wide stroller, you may have some issues with getting it onto the cart, so they may ask you to break it down. But if you have like a single stroller or one where your stroller seats are one in front of the other, you'll be fine to stroll that on. So that is good to keep in mind. And another reason why people really like staying at the Pop Century or Art of Animation or any of the Skyliner resorts. It's just an easier way to travel, and you don't have to rely on buses to get you around. Staying in the Disney bubble, you do get access to their buses that will really shuttle you anywhere that you need to go. So to the resorts, to Disney Springs, to the parks. They also have water parks as well. They have Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. So a lot of areas that you can get bussed around for free. And it's really good. Like I said, if you have children, you don't have to worry about bringing their car seat and renting a car, getting everywhere. You can just be in the Disney bubble and not have to worry about transportation, which is really good. But anyways, so looking at Pop Century and Art of Animation, because those were the only 2 that were available for our date range, because I didn't know at the time, but there was a cheer competition happening in May. So the all-star resorts were all booked, which was fine. And I honestly didn't even notice there was a cheer competition at any of the parks or at that time. So it didn't really affect us. But looking at the prices, I did call the Disney World customer service number. They're super friendly. They were able to answer all of my questions. And when I called, I was just letting them know, I'm planning on making a trip there, gave them my date range, and they told me all the options. And not to be cheap, but I was like, all right, I want the lower end of that. I want the value resorts, not moderate or deluxe, which getting into that, moderate resorts, a little bit more pricey. So maybe like $300 a night is more typical. And then for the deluxe, hence the name deluxe, a lot of money. I know they definitely get up to the higher end, where if you're staying at the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian resort or the Contemporary, because those are all on the monorail system, so that takes you straight to Magic Kingdom, or on the monorail it also takes you to Epcot as well, so gets you to the popular parks. So you're gonna pay a pretty penny with that. And those could be upwards of $1,000 a night, if not more. And that's just in a hotel room, let alone their suites. And you can pay a lot of money staying there. So I politely told them I want the cheaper end of that. And like I said, because the all-star resorts were booked up, they told me my next best would be Pop Century or Art of Animation. And they had a deal going on. If I were to book before I forget the time range, but I think it was the end of January or beginning of February, somewhere around there. I would get more of a discount because of the days we were staying. We were staying 5 or 6 nights. So I was like, hey, wait, this is great. So with the discounts and deals that they had going on, it was actually cheaper for us to stay at Art of Animation in the Little Mermaid room. It was about $200, maybe $203, but $200 a night. Whereas the Pop Century at the time, their rooms were like $217, $220. So it was really similar. But from reading reviews online of the different Disney hotel or Disney World resorts, everybody said the Art of Animation is always much more expensive, which looking on their website without any deals or discounts, it definitely is. Compared to the Pop Century, we're not talking hundreds of dollars, but just maybe like, I don't know, $50, $60, which to me makes a big deal or a big difference. So I was like, well, I'm sure if I go back again, I'll probably stay at Pop Century or the All-Star. So since I happened to get a better deal staying at the Art of Animation, I went ahead and booked Art of Animation in the Little Mermaid rooms. And those, just like Pop Century and just like All-Stars, are like the motel type rooms where the doors are on the outside. They also at Art of Animation have sections. So they have a Little Mermaid section, which is where we stayed, that are, you know, single room. We had 2 beds in our room, 2 queen size beds in our room and a bathroom. But they also have family suites in the other 3 sections at Art of Animation. So they had Lion King, Finding Nemo, and the Cars sections. And like I said, those are family suites. So it's basically the equivalent of having 2 rooms combined. And that's how the price really works out as well. Because like I said, for our Little Mermaid room, we were paying just about $200 a night. Well, the suites were like $400 a night. So, with those, you'll have a bedroom that has, you know, I believe it's a queen or king size bed in it. And then they'll have a pull down bed, a Murphy bed, that I believe is a queen or full size bed. And then you'll have a pull out couch that also is, I think, a full or a queen size bed. So you can fit a few more people in there, but the price definitely is more expensive. And when you're, at least for me, when I'm looking at hotels, I'm like, all right, I'm not paying $400 a night for a hotel room. It's a lot of money. But if you have other families staying with you and you're dividing out the cost, then maybe that makes sense for you and your family. But those were the big planning aspects that we, you know, needed to hash out first. Prices for the parks, prices for our flights, and prices for the hotel that we're going to stay at. So with all of that, we were on our way. I chose to take an early morning flight from Dallas Love Field to MCO, so Orlando International Airport. Our flight left here at like 6 in the morning, so we got there about 9:30, which wasn't too bad. And I just wanted to get there early because starting in 2025, they allowed anybody staying at a Disney World resort to get, on the day of their check-in, free admission to a water park. And like I said, they have the Blizzard Beach, or they have the Typhoon Lagoon water parks. And most of the time they're not open at the same times, but you'll just want to check their websites to see which one is open for the season. So I figured if we got to Orlando early, we could leave our bags, if our room wasn't ready, leave our bags at bell service, change quickly in the bathrooms into our swimsuits and covers, and then take a Disney bus over to the water park, enjoy that for free, and then come back when our room is ready and, you know, relax and maybe walk around Disney Springs. However, day 1, we went to the airport. A quick editor's note about traveling with a lap child when going through the airport. Be sure to take either the original or a photocopy of their birth certificate. Be sure that you know how to get to the lap child's ticket in the app, or printing them out at the little kiosk stands whenever you get to the airport before you go through TSA, because they will need that lap child's ticket to scan before you are able to go through like the metal detectors and bag check. And then I also recommend taking, if you are taking a stroller, don't let that deter you. It's not too difficult of a process. But if you are taking that stroller, take it through the airport with you. Because once you get to your gate, you can ask them for a luggage tag. And I recommend taking a luggage bag for your stroller if you're taking car seat, for your car seat as well. Just so that way you can roll it down to the end of the gate right before you get on the plane, break it down, put it in the bag, and then leave it there. And then whenever you land for your flight, it'll be right there, like so right when you get off the plane instead of having to go through baggage claim. Left at 6 a.m., got to Orlando at 9:30. I did plan to take a Mears shuttle from the airport to the Art of Animation. So previously, prior to COVID, Disney World had a contract with Mears, I guess, but they were called Magical Express at the time. So transportation from the airport to the resorts were free, which is great. But post-COVID, they kind of got rid of that contract. So now you have to find your own transportation from the airport or wherever you're coming in from to the resort. So Mears was the most economical for my family just because it was about $33 round trip for an adult. And again, kids under, I believe, the age of 2 or 3, I'll have to check their website, are free to use their shuttles. So it was most economical. Other than that, if we did an Uber, we'd have to worry about our car seat, and I didn't want to lug a big heavy car seat through the airport and to the resort just to leave it in the room for, a week and then have to use it again coming back, because on the flight she was a lap child. So didn't want to Uber because of that. And Uber does have an option to have a car seat friendly ride, but just from reading the reviews on that, you don't really know the condition of the car seats whenever you're using them. Your driver may not know how to install it. You may not be familiar with it. You don't know if that car seat's been in an accident. So just a little bit more sketchy, but that is an option. And those are typically more expensive as well. So a one-way ride from MCO, so Orlando Airport, to Disney World Resort may run you like $60 or $90 one way. So you still have to come back, to the airport from the resort to the airport. So just those costs. And you can also do a private transportations. Those, when I was pricing them out, would usually be anywhere between like $115 and upwards, one way from the airport to the resort. So looking at all the costs, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go with Mears. The only downside with Mears I heard was that they could take longer. So it's a coach bus, so really big bus. And they have sections that they will use to make sure that not everybody coming in using Mears is using the same bus. So a group of resorts will all generally be on the same bus. And depending on what bus stop you are, you'll be on the bus longer. Luckily for us, when we got in, we were the first bus stop at Art of Animation. So that was great. And then we also, I wouldn't say we're some of the last ones on the bus, but the bus wasn't that full. I think from whenever we got down to the Mears area, and on the bus and driving away, it was probably only like 5-10 minutes. And that was mostly just because the bus driver was putting all the luggage and strollers under the bus. But it wasn't like, oh, we're just sitting here waiting for people. Like you actively saw the bus driver like moving quickly to try to get all the luggage under the bus. So about 5-10 minutes from whenever we got to the bus area to actually driving off. Again, sometimes depending on what time your flight gets in, how busy the bus is going to be, people said it could take longer. And from getting on the bus to getting to their resort, people said that it could take upwards of like 2 hours. Like I said, for us, it was really easy. The drive from the airport to the resort was about 30 minutes or so. So, I mean, that factors into the time as well. And we were the first bus stop. So I was only on the bus for about 30-45 minutes, which worked out for me and my family, just because my daughter at the time, she didn't want, if we did bring her car seat, she would not do well with being in a car seat for that long. So having her on the bus and like holding her in front of me was much better so she could see. And if she did want to turn around, I can feed her like some yogurt melts, and it was fine. Like there was no crying. She was A-okay. So that was a calm and peaceful bus ride for us. Getting to the resort, we checked in. We saw on the app that our room was ready, and I also pre-ordered her a birthday cake so that way we could take pictures in front of the Cinderella castle on her birthday with the cake. And I don't believe in a cake smash. It just seems wasteful to me, but she did take pictures with the cake, and then we ate the cake afterwards. So they also called me and let me know, like, hey, your cake is being dropped off right now. I was like, oh, perfect. I'm literally walking off the bus right now. So I met at the front desk. Like I said, I had already did the online check-in. Whenever you are booking a Disney World resort, you'll get the option to do an online check-in before, which is basically just putting in all your information, like your card, if you have a card on file, and who's staying in the room, just general check-in information. You can do that beforehand, or you can do it at the resort at the front desk. The front desk has lots of receptionists, so I don't think you'll ever be waiting too long. And if you are, they are very quick. So, but for us, I just decided to do it ahead of time because traveling with children, you never quite know how they're going to be. So anything that could save time, I did that ahead of time just so that way we're not waiting in a long line. She's getting fussy and we're dealing with that. So, like I said, they called. We went and got the cake. They also just were like, oh yeah, your room's ready. Let us know if you need anything. And another planning consideration, we ordered a few snacks in just because at the time she was transitioning to her milk. So she didn't do well with cow's milk. So we had to give her special Ripple milk that her pediatrician recommended. And with that, I wanted to do shelf stable because there is rumors going around that the Disney World resorts are getting away from refrigerators to more beverage cooler type, and the temperatures in those fluctuate. So I didn't want to run the chance of getting, something that needs to be refrigerated and kept at a certain temperature, and then the refrigerator or the beverage cooler in the room, if they have one, because some of them also may just have the little like bucket that you have to put ice in. So I just wanted to get shelf stable milk. So I ordered some of that, and I ordered some of her yogurt melts and puree pouches, just things that keep her calm that don't necessarily need refrigeration. We did order that. So we picked that up from the front desk as well when we were there. And then we headed to the room. You will hear a lot of people, if they do stay at Art of Animation, say the walk is so long, unmanageable. But if you do end up going to Disney World or stay at Pop Century or Art of Animation or on any of the Skyliner routes, or you ever just take the Skyliner, you'll see, okay, yes, Art of Animation, Pop Century, they are, decent sized resorts. It's not small like Riviera. But if you were to use the Skyliner over the Caribbean Beach Resort, that resort is massive. So for the people complaining about the Art of Animation walk from the front desk to the Little Mermaid rooms, which is the furthest for the Art of Animation Resort, I don't feel like that's anything compared to the Caribbean Beach Resort. So it's a little bit of a walk, but it's manageable. And especially going to Disney World, prepare to walk. But that was the least of my concerns, was the walk from the front desk to the Little Mermaid room. So, and we also got the furthest room. So, the walk was fine, even with the furthest room. Once we got into the room, we looked around. I did let them know it was her birthday. So on the screen, they had a happy birthday message on the TV, which is really nice. A special touch for her. But then, like I said, our flight left at 6, and I do not get to the airport a few minutes before we get to the airport extra early. So we were up at like 3 a.m, getting over to the airport. So we had been up for some time at this point. My husband, my daughter wanted to nap, so let them nap, while my mom and I went and got her ECV scooter. You can rent a scooter at the parks, but if you're going to be there for a few days and go other places, like I knew we were going to go to Disney Springs, which is their like outdoor shopping mall area. We just went ahead and ordered one from a third-party company just so that way we can use, which, talking to my mom on the last trip when she rented an ECV at the parks, I believe she said they were upwards of like $60 a day, versus renting one through a third-party company was maybe like $20 or $30. So you can definitely save some money renting them through a third-party company if you're going to be there longer and you for sure need one the entire time and you can't do as much walking around. So while they were napping, we went to the front, met up with the company, got her scooter, came back to the room. They didn't want to wake up until closer to maybe 2 or so in the afternoon, which the water parks closed at that time at 5 o'clock. So that wasn't going to happen. To get, everybody changed, sunscreen, get over to the buses, bus over to the water park, get in, find chairs. It wasn't going to happen, which is fine. I knew, traveling with a young child, plans are going to change, which I was perfectly fine with. So scratch that plan, and we just decided we'll just go to Disney Springs and walk around, get some dinner, come back and get prepared for our next day. So that's what we did. We got dressed, applied sunscreen. We took our stroller with us because we knew we were just going to walk around. We did use the app. So the app is very friendly. The Disney World app is very friendly, user friendly. So with that, you can book reservations. That's where you'll go in there and do your online check-in for the parks, but I'll get more into the parks in my next videos. But for the parks, that's where you'll book your lightning lanes if you want to do lightning lanes, which basically lets you skip the lines. You can do anything. You look at the map, you can direct yourself to restaurants, you can look at waits, you can look at a lot of things. So very user-friendly. Definitely recommend downloading the Disney World app if you are going to Disney World. So just looking at the app before we left on, what everybody wanted to eat, because everybody has different preferences on food. Like my husband doesn't like pizza. I didn't really want a burger, just looking at prices too, because Disney World, it's probably going to be a pretty penny at certain places. So I just wanted to plan ahead so we don't go into somewhere to get food and they're like, oh, it's $75. Like, okay. So looked ahead at the prices and the menus, narrowed it down. And we picked 2 places that were, I wouldn't say across the street, but like across the walkway from each other. I went to pizza place, Blaze Pizza, and then my husband went to a burger place to get his burger, and we ate outside in one of the table patio areas, which was super beautiful. So we walked back to the front area because at the Art of Animation, the bus stops are at the front, right outside where the front desk area is. So walked all the way back to the front of the resort, waited for the bus. They do have different areas for buses. So they have an area lined up for Magic Kingdom, one for Epcot. Actually, yes, they do have one for Epcot and Hollywood Studios. However, since this is a Skyliner resort, if the Skyliner is up and functional and working, you only can take the Skyliner to Epcot or Hollywood Studios. But if for whatever reason it's not working, typically because of lightning, bad weather, then they will have buses. And we learned that kind of the hard-ish way. But again, I'll get into that more on my Epcot day. But yes, if there is lightning, the Skyliner will stop. So people will stop and be stuck up there until it passes, and then it'll, be running again. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it wasn't scary. We never got stopped on the Skyliner. And although Florida is known for, spontaneous showers or whatever, generally we could just look up at the sky. It's dark. Yeah, probably don't take that. Or, it's probably about to start raining. We just did that. So we never got stopped on the Skyliner, but I can see where people might get stopped for a little bit, which we did see it stop every so often, but something to keep in mind. But back to it. Art of Animation, you will have a lineup for Magic Kingdom. You will have one for Epcot and Hollywood Studios. It will have a sign on it if the Skyliner is working saying, please use the Skyliner located at the back of the resort. And then there's a line for Animal Kingdom and one for Disney Springs. We also learned after the first 2-3 times of going on the buses, there are TVs at the back area that will show you the wait times for the buses and when the next bus will get there, which was super helpful. So if you ever are there, just look around for a TV, and there's usually one that will tell you the wait times. Something else that was helpful, You could also see those wait times in the app. I didn't find that out until like the last day. But if you look in the app, especially when you go into My Resort, inside of that My Resort area in the app, you have an option to select bus times. And that'll tell you when the next bus will be. I don't think I ever used it because I waited until the last day to finally figure it out. But that could have been helpful, so that way we know, okay, yeah, run or walk really fast to get to the bus so we can make this bus. Or we have time. There's no need to, be rushing to get to the front. Usually leaving from the resort, there was a bus just about every 15, 20 minutes, which isn't a long time, but in the Florida heat and humidity, it's like 90 degrees, it's 70% humidity, it's really hot and stuffy. That could be a long amount of time just standing there. But coming back, and I'll get into that in more of my other videos as well, this time I feel like it was longer to get a bus going to the Art of Animation. A hack, so to say, that people would use, since the Art of Animation and the Pop Century are like sister resorts and back to back to each other, people would take the opposite bus. So we would take the Pop Century bus because they had buses coming, I feel like almost every 5 minutes. So, and they had no lines on those buses. So we would get on the Pop Century bus, take that back to Pop Century, and then pretty much just walk through the backside of their resort to get, and you'll walk past the Skyliner, and then you're at the Art of Animation. So that's a hack that people may do. And that's definitely what we did coming back from Disney Springs, because the wait and seeing the long line of people at Art of Animation and you're just sitting there waiting for the next bus, it was a lot. So that's a hack that you may or may not use. And something else to keep in mind with that too, like especially if you're at Disney Springs or if you're at any of the parks aside from Epcot, Hollywood Studios, if you're on a Skyliner resort, you can get on a bus to go to any resort. Like, you don't have to take Art of Animation because you're staying at Art of Animation. Like, you can park hop, you can, with the buses, you can do the same thing with the resorts. Like, you can definitely take a different bus than what resort you're going to. So even if you wanted to go along the Skyliner route and you're leaving Magic Kingdom, you can be like, oh, I'm going to get on the Riviera bus and then take it to the Riviera and then get on the Skyliner and go back to Art of Animation. I mean, that's a longer route, but still, you don't have to take the exact bus that you have a hotel reservation for. So good to know if you didn't know. But back to the first day, we were at the bus stop for Disney Springs, got on. Like I said, my mom had an ECV, so the motorized scooter. We did learn on that first go around using the buses that the ECV scooters will load first. So she loaded in first. They had to like dip the bus to the side, load her in, get her strapped in, and then they'll dip it back up and then let the regular people walk on. We just went through the regular line. So she was over at the handicap area and then we were in the regular line. We didn't learn until later that your party can go with the handicap person scooting, rolling, however they're getting onto the bus. You can stand over there with them and go on to the bus with them. We didn't have a lot of people. It was just myself, my mom, my husband, my daughter. So we did that. I feel like if we had a larger party, we probably would have like split up and just a few people get on with her and other people wait. But that's another thing to keep in mind. So you don't have to separate and just one person, go. So that's something to keep in mind. So we all loaded onto the bus. Depending on how busy and how many people are in line, there will probably be people standing up. So just keep that in mind, especially in the morning times. If you're going to parks like Magic Kingdom, it'll be a full bus, but it's air conditioned. They generally have good music on there and the overall vibes are much better. Like I said in my previous videos, we stayed at the Holiday Inn in Disney Springs. And I feel like the bus vibe was just different versus taking the Disney bus this time, which is overall better. I don't know why, but it was better. And the drivers were friendly. It was great. They would give my daughter stickers. So much better. But anyways, with that, getting to Disney Springs, everybody would get off first, and then the handicap people will get off last because they got to dip the bus back down. So got to Disney Springs, walked around for a little bit, went and stood in line for our food. We ate on the patio area, and it was about sunset time. I don't know the exact time, maybe 6 or 7. So the sun was going down. We got beautiful pictures. You could see some of the other resorts. They do have the moderate resorts that are over there near the Disney Springs area. So a lot of good pictures. If you were at one of those resorts, they have like a ferry boat that you could take on the water to get there and back. So overall, really pretty. We took pictures. I did activate our military tickets at the customer service desk while we were at Disney Springs. And then with that, for military, you also get the memory maker for your whole trip for $100 versus regular. I don't want to lie, but I think for our trip, if I didn't get it through military, I think it would have been like $200 or $250 or something like that. But for military, got it for $100, which that allows you to get pictures taken anywhere that has the picture people. So people in a certain colored shirt, there it was green, like a lime green. The rides, they take pictures sometimes. And then at Disney Springs, there's actually like I wouldn't say professional, but like a professional photo area, photo pass place that you can go and take pictures. So since I knew that after I activated our tickets and bought the memory maker, that was one of the stops we made, was to that professional photo area, photo pass studio. So we took pictures there. We stopped at the Rainforest Cafe and took pictures. So it was more relaxed. We just walked around just casually. It was starting to like sprinkle on and off. So we didn't stay too long just because the ECD couldn't get wet. But like I said, we went and walked around, got our food, took pictures, and went back to the resort to prepare for our next day. Our next day was gonna be Magic Kingdom with lightning lanes. So look forward to more to come from my next videos on that day. But overall, Disney World does not have to be stressful. Yes, it does take some planning on the front end, but a little bit of planning on the front really saves you a lot of time on the back end. Just thinking of dining reservations, thinking of lightning lanes for your parks if you want to do that to skip the lines, because Disney World does have a lot of people, and sometimes the lines, like I saw some of the lines were upwards of 90 minutes, 80 minutes, or up from there, especially if you at Magic Kingdom like want to go on Tron or any of the really popular lines. Those lines can be really long, or even for some of the shorter ones, like 30 minutes with a small child is a lot of time to be waiting. So you can skip lines by buying a lightning lane, which depending on the day, and they'll have it in that Disney app as well where you can price it out. For that next day at Magic Kingdom, it was, I believe it was like $25, $26 per person. So paying $26, but you save hours in line with a small child and people just barely inching along, and it's 90 degrees and 70% humidity. I don't know about you, but I'm at a point in my life where if I can pay a few dollars to save a lot of convenience, I will pay that money for the convenience. So that's what we did that first day. So maybe that's something for you, maybe it's not, depending on your party size. And with the lightning lanes too, children under the age of 3 are free. So she was able to go with us whenever we did the lightning lanes and did the rides. And of course, like, I'm a big planner, so I planned out which rides according to height and what she might like. But like I said, Disney World does not have to be stressful. You don't need to dive that deep into a vacation. If it is overwhelming and stressful, you can go through a Disney approved travel agent. Generally, they're at no extra cost to you, but depending on who their travel agency may be, they may allow them to charge you, extra on the side, because it is a lot of planning that goes into it if you want the most seamless experience. But like I said, if you are more stressed planning out a vacation, you can use a Disney travel agent. And that wraps up this first video. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and look forward to my next videos, more content. Thanks, y'all.